Welcome aboard JR East Train Simulator, available from Steam for around $7.
ドアが閉まります。ご注意ください。
The doors are closing and we're ready to depart on our tour of JR East's official railway simulator. As someone with a very limited Japanese vocabulary, I find this a lot easier to play than Densha to Go, for example. The controls are very simple. It's mouse wheel down to go faster and mouse wheel up to go slower. At each station you simply wait for the pilot light to illuminate before you depart, and en route information is displayed in a HUD in the top right corner that flicks between English and Japanese. At the top is the current in-game time. Just below that is a countdown to your booked time at the next station. This is followed by the next station's name and then the distance in meters to that station. Gradient information is shown just below, and at the bottom is your current throttle position and reverser position. It seems you don't have to worry about the reverser at the moment, it's always set to the forward position. So that's the UI and the controls covered. How about the signalling systems? Well, on this E233 electric train it's very simple. This train has cab signalling, so on your speedometer there's a green marker. As long as you don't exceed that marker, you're all good. Driving the diesel unit in the scenario we'll cover after this is a little more complex. An important note at this point is that this simulator is very dependent on refresh rate. If you have a 144Hz monitor like mine, you'll need to lock it to 60Hz for this to work correctly. So right now we're about 500 meters away from our next station, so let's focus on our approach and start reducing the power. You will see YouTubers from Japan make far better station stops than this left, right and centre. I haven't had nearly as much practice as these guys and really lack the precision, so I'm making a very gentle sort of tentative stop here. What I've learned is that train stations in Japan are like sharks. They just sneak up on you, and the stop precision requirements in this game are ridiculous. On the intermediate setting, you get a 3 meter leeway each side of the stop marker. On the hardest difficulty, and I'd guess the most realistic, this is reduced to 1 meter. That gives you some kind of idea of the precision in Japan's railway operations. I arrive at the station only about 20 seconds late. Now in Britain that technically counts as early. In Japan I would probably be fired tomorrow. So with our stop complete and a brief introduction to the simulator sort of explained, we'll take a look at the other train and route available right now. This simulator is in early access. There are only 2 routes and 2 locomotives available, but that will be expanded in the future. The second train is a 110 series diesel locomotive, and the route itself is also quite different. Instead of cab signalling, there are line side signals and speed signs, although the train still has the ATSP safety system where the brakes will be applied if you exceed the speed limit in a section. The current speed limit and next speed limit aren't displayed on the UI, so you have to look very closely at those line side speed signs and hope you've got it right. The speed limit from the first station appears to be 45 kilometers, briefly followed by an unlimited speed sign, then almost immediately afterwards a 70 km/h limit for the curve ahead. Before we get too bogged down in detail, let's talk about the obvious again. If you haven't guessed by now, this is essentially an FMV game. The view out of the cab is a video filmed from the cab of a JR East train. And just like the old days of Train Simulator and OpenBVE, the cab itself is a 2D panel. This is a fairly common theme in Japanese rail simulator games, and I'd imagine in this simulator, which is a commercial training tool, you obviously need that photorealistic appearance for route learning and familiarity. It actually works quite well. You don't really see people walking comically fast, and you only notice the motion blur when you stop at a station. And as we clear into an unlimited speed section, which lasts for quite a while, let's fast forward to the next station stop. So again, we start braking fairly early, but I must be getting better at this, as the stop is going to be a lot more gentle and precise. As you can see from the UI in the top right corner, we've actually arrived at this station about 30 seconds early. I don't know how East Japan Railway Company judges their drivers. Maybe arriving 30 seconds early gets you fired, just the same as arriving 30 seconds late, but I'm proud of myself. Our stop accuracy is also bang in the middle of the green marker. Now before we end this video, we'll take a look at some of the more interesting and challenging sections of the route ahead. Along this route you'll need to repeat it over and over until you learn it, because otherwise you'll get surprised by things like this 85 km/h speed limit into a curve, and you won't necessarily spot the unlimited speed sign going onto the bridge afterwards. If you slow down unnecessarily, you're going to be very late. You'll also probably need to look on Wikipedia about Japanese railway signalling. For example, immediately after this 75 km/h speed limit, we have a route indicator that shows us that we're being pathed to the route on the right and that it's clear. However, there's also a 40 km speed limit associated with that, and even more confusingly, a red signal directly ahead. However, there's a proceed marker just before it. This means that we can cross the red signal, and once we've done that, you'd expect things to maybe get a little bit easier, but they really don't. There's a 35 km speed limit on the points just after the signal, followed by a platform that seems to come out of nowhere. So yeah, driving Japanese trains is a fairly tricky experience, especially for those in the West with absolutely no idea of how this works, and by and large a complete inability to read or understand spoken Japanese. But hopefully you've enjoyed this introduction to the game. You might even go out and try it yourself. If you do, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Thank you very much for watching this variety simulation video. Drop a like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more sim stuff, and I'll leave you with the menu music from this game. Take care.